Good afternoon. My name is Mrs. Munger. I'm going to be giving a sample lesson plan today over a 6th grade level social studies course. The standard that I've chosen for this course today is standard 6.2.3. The standard states, to describe the predominant natural resources found in each region. The regions that we're talking about today would be the regions of the Western Hemisphere. The learning target that I've written out is for students to be able to name the 3 major regions of the Western Hemisphere, know the predominant natural resources that these regions share, and know the type of resource that it is. So when I go into the I do, we do, you do section, I'll be able to put that in some more student-friendly terms. I'm going to jump into the I do section first. Hello students, please turn your books to page 23 while I begin introducing the chapter that we're learning about today. What we're learning about today is natural resources, more specifically the natural resources that are found in the regions of the Western Hemisphere. So before I start teaching you about that, I want to just ask what you know about natural resources, what you think that might mean. What does that mean to you? Good answers. So natural resources are resources that are from the environment. They're natural to the land or the earth, and in this case, we're talking about those that are specific to the 3 major regions of the Western Hemisphere. So some questions that you'll need to know the answers to for this section. One question is going to be, what are the 3 main regions of the Western Hemisphere? Of course, those are Canada, United States, and Latin America. Those are the 3 major regions. That's what you'll be answering. What are 6 natural resources that these regions have in common? So Canada, United States, and Latin America all have different natural resources, but many of those natural resources are the same. You'll hear them more than once. So I want you to find 6 natural resources that these countries have in common. So for example, that might be natural gas, coal, timber, and I'll just name a few of those so that you can find the answers later as we go on. A third question would be, what type of resource is each one of these? And then we'll answer that question together as we read the chapter. So like I said, those are just some questions that we'll be answering together as we go on throughout this section. So I want you to understand that this section is very important. Who wants to take a guess at why this is important to know? Yes, this is important to know because, of course, each of these natural resources affects global trading. It affects each country, the different resources that are specific to each of these regions. Those affect what trading opportunities that country has, what they're importing and exporting, and then of course the businesses that might be successful in that region. So it could very well affect the jobs that you go into in the future. So that's an example of why this would be important. And some key terms and definition for this section would be to, of course, know the 3 major parts of the Western Hemisphere. We'll look at the different types of natural resources. So we'll look mostly at energy resources, mineral resources, and then forestry resources. So that concludes my portion of the I do section. I just wanted to model some of that for the student, begin giving them an introduction for the lesson. For the we do portion, I have typed up a handout. Just a basic handout, but something that the students could see that, actually look at that on. For the we do portion, that handout where it's underlined would actually be fill in the blank so that the students can search for those answers, practice their critical thinking skills. For the we do section, I would want students to read the chapter. Preferably, we would do that as a group, as a class. Do a popcorn reading style and take turns reading the section. I think that really just promotes working together as a group, promotes active listening, and then of course it encourages the critical thinking skills whenever they're reading along and searching for the answers as we go. So that would be my plan for the we do section. For the you do section, I would give a quiz at the end of this section. The quiz would be maybe a mixture of fill in the blank, multiple choice, matching questions, but the quiz would not be open book like the we do portion. The quiz would be closed book. That would be, of course, to assess the information that students were able to retain as we went about learning this section. So a little bit more on the assessment part. I would assess student success by getting a gauge of their confidence level about this section, about the learning target. So I demonstrated that in the I do section whenever I asked students what they know about natural resources. The expectation there is they probably know very little about natural resources, might not know much at first. And as I said, that's to be expected. But as we go on throughout the section and before we take the final quiz or test for this section, I would want to ask students once again what they know about natural resources or how confident they feel about the upcoming quiz. And then the goal would be for their confidence level to have grown going into that final quiz than what it was at the beginning. Another way that I would assess their success would be through test-retest process by using an assessment with a book and then again the quiz with no book. So the goal would be for students to score equally well or better when they complete their closed book quiz than what they did on their open book quiz. So for example, during the I do portion, say they score a 90% on their open book assessment. Then the expectation would be for the student to score a 90% or higher when they take their closed book quiz. A little bit about the learning experience. I would ask for students to engage in listening to the teacher and practicing active listening skills during the I do portion. That would be the goal for that portion. Once again, the reading as a group. That helps students work as a team. Improve their reading skills is another big one. And then again, sharpen their critical thinking skills. And then, of course, to help them retain the information so that they'll be ready for the quiz. Some options that I've provided there, other than this, would be to write notes on a board or provide a handout similar to what I showed for students who may have listening or attention issues. So that would be a bit of a modified assignment. I would ask questions to have an open discussion, so model asking the students questions so that they feel encouraged and welcome to ask me questions as well. In case they have any problems, I would want to address that for them. And then modified testing assignments, such as creating a shorter test or giving a student more time on a test, just in case that's needed for a student. Appropriate resources or materials for this section would be, of course, a 6th grade level geography book would be appropriate. Occasionally I like to use extra resources, such as video resources. I think that gives students a good and fun opportunity to watch and see what's going on, learn from that a different way than just listening to it or reading it. I think it helps open their eyes when they're able, like I said, to just sit down and actually watch what's unfolding. So a good resource for that may be a clip of a National Geographic video. Just something fun and interesting as an additional resource. Some assistive technology might include things like text-to-speech or vice versa, using visual search engines, headphones, braille embossers, screen magnifiers, or felt keyboards. Of course, there's a lot of options there, but those are a few that might be needed in the beginning. The open book question and answer assignment is meant to gauge student engagement. So I would assess their engagement, that they're engaging appropriately in the classroom by how well they did on the open book assessment. If they perform well with the assistance of their book, then I know that they had appropriate engagement, that they did things like reading the chapter all the way, or reading the chapter as a class or on their own, and that they did things like participating by asking questions during discussion time, or even asking the teacher during my own time or in free time if they have questions. As a teacher, I would encourage and model classroom discussion and communications so that students will communicate when they do have trouble. So that's just one way that I would consider the virtual nature of the classroom, by just constantly being open for communication so that the students feel free to come to me whenever they have trouble. That is all I have for today. Thank you.